Welcome to another episode of Six Figure Secrets for Fractional Experts. My name is Bradley Jacobs. I'm your host. Today, I'm joined by Anna Shilina. Anna is the author of Habit Freedom and the founder of relatingacademy.com. She's the go-to habits and relationship coach for high performers and trailblazers. Over a decade guiding thousands of entrepreneurs, breaking free from limiting habits and creating deeply fulfilling relationships. Anna, thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So as we introduce you, give us an idea of how you got into this work, right? Over a decade in this work. What drove you to it?
Well, I really started to get interested in personal development at a young age of 18. So really understanding human potential, what makes people tick, what makes some people successful and other people not. But that was never my main focus or main career. So I did other things. I was in hospitality for 8 years. I had an export business. I had a security guarding company. And then once I sold and exited the security guarding company, where I'd grown that to about 1,000 employees, I started consulting and coaching, focusing on mindset and performance and helping people become the best versions of themselves as entrepreneurs. And I figured out throughout the 10 years of doing that everything comes down to habits and relationships. And so that's what I honed in on. And as I started to write the book on relationships, I realized that the most important relationship that we have, the one that we, is our first relationship, our last relationship, and the longest relationship is the relationship we have with ourselves. And so that's where I wrote the book, Habit Freedom, breaking free from limiting habits, enhancing performance, enriching relationships. And I used my own story of being trapped in limiting habits with alcohol and unconscious eating and doom scrolling and binging series and numbing out with these different behaviors, and being able to have broken free from those myself and then guiding clients to as well. I was able to put that in the book and focus on that side of coaching.
Yeah, amazing. So when we talk about the relationship with ourselves, I've done a lot of work in this space as well, but let's make it really tangible, right? From the difference from someone who has a really healthy cheerleading kind of relationship with themselves, maybe, versus one who really doesn't. Maybe they're just starting out in this journey of self-development, self-growth, or they just haven't done it at all. Like, what is the main difference between, like, make it really tangible for someone listening?
Oh, I love how tangible you're asking me to make it. There's two main tangible things. Is number one is, are you able to keep promises to yourself? So a lot of that relationship with yourself is about self-respect and self-trust. Can you trust yourself and do you respect yourself? And so the first thing to look at is, what are the promises that I am able to keep to myself? And then where am I breaking promises to myself? And so that is the biggest factor I find between those who have a great relationship and then not. Like, imagine you had a friend and you kept making commitments to this friend and you kept breaking them. How long would that friend be a friend? Not very long, right? But how often do we say, we're going to go to gym, or we're going to create a habit of, closing one deal a day, or whatever it is, right? And then we keep breaking that habit, that promise to ourselves, and that starts to become a habit. And of course, then that doesn't lead to a healthy relationship, and then that diminishes that trust. And then the second very tangible factor is our self-talk. How do we talk to ourselves in times of success and in times of failure? Right? Are we our biggest cheerleader? Do we prop ourselves up? Do we have compassion for ourselves when we mess up and make mistakes? Do we understand that some of our behaviors as adults come from an inner child, and sometimes a wounded inner child? And are we able to have compassion for that inner wounded child and sit with them and understand their triggers and why they do certain things, and not berate ourselves? So that self-talk is also super, super tangible. And so when I start working with people, we start to unpack, like, what are the things that you're saying to yourself that are maybe limiting you?
Amazing. I love how you broke that down. I would love to take it a step further and say, okay, when let's talk about the self-compassion, for example. I mean, either one is easily applicable, but self-compassion, there's the opposite, right, is self-judgment or self-criticism or self-doubt. So when I do something, I'm very critical of myself, right? Pretty self-explanatory. The opposite side being I do something and it doesn't go as well as I want it to. And I'm very, just as I might be to a friend or a loved one, like, it's okay. You learned a lot from it, right? There's a compassion there. What is the difference in, as an entrepreneur or fractional or whatever it is, business owner, what is the difference in a business outcome or a business process or something tangible to my business from a self criticism versus self love and compassion when something happens?
In business, it's all about how many times you can get knocked down and get back up again. And compassion goes a long way with being able to do that over and over. I find creating a business is the best personal development program under the sun, because you're faced off with all of your limiting beliefs, limitations. Like, you have to face yourself really and sell you to you and understand, okay, well, what do I have a fear of rejection? Where is this doubt coming from? So at the end of the day, criticism has a place, but it's like, how far do you take it? And how far do you let it knock you down? And you can have a stern word with yourself and then also match that with the love and compassion for yourself as well. Because sometimes, there's such a thing. I don't know if you've heard of toxic compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, oh, you're okay, you'll always be okay. Whereas sometimes you need a harder talking to. It's like, no, you were a lazy piece of shit today, like get on it. So understanding that there is also that threshold is important. But at the end of the day, it's really about becoming your future self's best friend over what your immediate self has an impulse for, and so understanding, okay, so my future self that's confident and is crushing it and is succeeding, what do I need to say to my present self so that I become that future self?
Yeah. Wow. So I love how you ended there. Let's just say I'm my own harshest critic, right? There's so many people that would say that. And I'm sure it's true, right? We talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to somebody else, right? I would never say, Anna, you lazy piece of shit today, right? But we say that to ourselves. We do all the time. It's a default sometimes. It feels like it's an unconscious just reaction to be really, really, really self-critical. What is a process or a way or a tangible thing that I or a listener can do that starts to rewire so the default is the compassionate response versus the critical one?
So rewiring habits and beliefs and embracing change that way is a huge part of becoming conscious and successful. And so what comes to mind to share right now is something I call the Frankel pause. So Viktor Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, wrote this quote: between the stimulus and the response, there's a pause or a space. And in that space lies your freedom. And so when someone goes, okay, that's my reaction, is like I berate myself or I'm very critical, the more we're able to create that pause between the stimulus and the response and choose a new response, the better we are. Now, when we first start, we're not going to be very good at this, right? When you first start, you'll still go to your default, but then the very next thought is like, oh wait, that's the old default, right? Like, what would the new version of me say and do, and what would that reaction be? And so without criticizing yourself more, right? Like, okay, I'm in the process of change, meaning I will mess up at the beginning. So this is because I'm conditioned this way. So the new conditioning is going to take a while, and becoming the new version where you have that compassion and that positive self-talk takes not one decision, not two decisions, not even 10 decisions. It takes thousands of decisions, thousands of rewirings. I always say to my clients that inner child healing takes thousands of decisions, right? It's not to overwhelm someone, it's to tell them that, like, it's okay that you're going to mess up at first. And the more we're able to recognize the stimulus and go like, I'm triggered and my old self would have reacted this way, but my new self, I'm programming myself to react this way. The more we can create that pause, the better. And the most tangible way to do that is through meditation, and not the pop culture meditation where you sit and kind of like wish your problems away for a little bit, or like try to silence your mind, or, read a quote on Instagram, but really with being able to sit with the discomfort that comes up, that surfaces, and then rolls over in waves, and really understanding the inner landscape of your mind helps you create that spaciousness. So having a meditation practice is one of the best things that one can do for creating that Frankel pause, so that the reaction starts to get rewired. The other thing that I like to help my clients do is I use Byron Katie's work, the work questions. And the couple questions that really stand out to share is, one, when I believe that thought, that criticism, so I start to assess it. I believe this thought, you're a piece of shit. How do I react? Oh, I dissociate, I numb out, I go on Instagram, how do I react? I want to know, do you become a better version of yourself or a worse version of yourself, right? So that's the first, the one question I like to ask. And the second question, which is even more important, is who would you be without this thought? And when you really realize and recognize that you would be free without this thought, that's when it starts to shift. And the final thing I'd like to add is the inner child healing, because our parents' voices become our inner voice. So when I work with parents who have kids themselves, I help them understand that the way they speak to their children is going to become their children's inner voice, right? So going back to, okay, where does this inner voice come from? Was it the mom or the dad? And healing that relationship with the mom and the dad, and then reparenting that inner child. What did he or she want to and need to hear instead of that criticism when they were young? And giving yourself that as an adult, that's what reparenting that inner child is. Once you get into the habit of that, then it starts to soften.
Wow. There's so much there, especially, I don't know if I've heard it in quite that language of the way our parents spoke to us is our inner voice, or becomes our inner voice.
How does that relate with your experience? Like, can you see how that's true for you?
I mean, absolutely. My parents are very, I don't want to say critical, but I would say celebrated achievements in a significant, like that's where I, as a child, got my love from. And so certainly have been working through being my own worst critic, harshest critic for, ever since, I don't know, college, maybe before, and recognizing how it doesn't serve me. And then, yeah, I think a big part of it has been, one of the things I do is I have a journaling practice every single day. And part of it is writing down the beliefs or the thoughts that come up for me, and then writing evidence where against them. So I'll ask, like, is this 100% true? Like I'm, the subconscious belief that if I build something for hundreds of thousands or millions of people, that I'll disappoint them all. Right. It's a limiting belief that holds me back. And so it's like, is that true? Is there evidence for that? No, there's not. And then I can write the list of evidence that's not supporting that in the positive belief that I won't disappoint them, or let them all down, or whatever it is. So
I love that you shared that, especially because I truly believe that we don't choose our beliefs, we gather evidence for them, right? So if I put my hands around your neck and I said, you have to believe that the sky is green, you have to believe it, or it's tickets for you, you couldn't believe it because you don't have evidence of the sky being green. The only way you could start to believe it is if tomorrow you wake up and like, holy smokes, the sky is actually green. Right. So I love that you put that in. It's like, okay, what evidence do I have against this belief? And actually for the belief that I want to create is even stronger.
And that's the thing, right? Because I can find evidence of where I might disappoint people, right? Like there's certainly been, I'm not a perfect entrepreneur, right? We've certainly built stuff that wasn't perfect and that had some disappointed customers. So I could find evidence for both sides. It's a question is like, what do I want to find evidence for? And basically train my internal belief system of that not only am I capable of building something that millions of people love and adds value to, but I truly believe I can, am going to. Right. It's I could pick either side if I wanted to. And for some reason, the default is often the negative side of this limiting belief. And it's almost a curious, like, how did that come to be? I wasn't born with that. I'm sure I wasn't born with that. Right.
It's a protection mechanism. It's just over the years that you've learned that if you have certain beliefs, it keeps you safe.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, for survival purposes, before we can thrive, we need to feel safe, right? So you will often have those thoughts and those beliefs to protect you, to protect the status quo, because it feels safer than the alternative. Once you create that inner sense of safety and security, where like, I'm good regardless. I really love the quote of the bird isn't afraid of the branch falling because the bird relies on his wings. So when you really have that strong sense of security in your own wings, no matter what, and on top of that, that disappointing people is probably going to be part of that journey. It just is. And on top of that, and I'm not advocating for disappointing or like doing a bad job at all, but a lot of the times, I've actually recently coached an entrepreneur who had this really, really dense lens of disappointment. Like he was always disappointed, and then he was also afraid of disappointment. And so we had to go back into his childhood and find out, where did you learn that emotion of disappointment? Because that left a chemical imprint in you. Now, what you're doing as an adult is you're recreating all these scenarios, feeling disappointed by other people, and then also having that fear of disappointing others, so that you can feel that feeling over and over again, because we're addicted to that emotion. So that is where that inner child healing comes from, that inner child work. It's like, okay, so where did you learn that feeling? What does that child need to hear and feel? And then going back and giving that reassurance to that inner child. And it's often not a once off thing. It's often the next time I'm feeling disappointed or have that fear of disappointing, I remember, okay, inner child, what do I need to connect with and say and feel? How do I help that inner child feel more secure in himself or herself? Okay, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, and then move from there.
Yeah. I think, and I just want to share my own journey from a standpoint of, I feel like I've done so many things around inner child healing and therapy and mindset work. And I was kind of getting to a point almost of like, what's going to be the thing that does this? I think that belief that was not serving me either, because it is this kind of constant path of healing. There's no there per se. I think you can get to a healthier place with yourself for sure, but I was doing, I would do I would hire the expensive coach, and I did the therapy, and I went to a psychodrama retreat, a leadership retreat, and, on down the line. And I was like, my God, how am I going to get to a better place with myself? And it's interesting, really over the last year, things have really shifted for me in a big way, but I really think it's the compilation of all of these things and the constant practice of really getting to a safe, as you said, I actually recently heard the bird in the branch comment or story or whatever before, very recently. So it's funny that you bring that up, but it really resonated with me, right? It's not about the branch being sturdy. It's about when the branch fails, the bird knows it can fly, or if the branch falls, right?
I relate so hard with that feeling. I remember specifically being on a walk, trying to figure out like, does this healing stuff work? Like, does any of the stuff I've ever done, like, why did I just have that same reaction that I would have had 20 years ago? Like, haven't I done all this work? Like, aren't I supposed to be in a better place? And I had to really come to terms with like, well, what if this is just my earth curriculum? This is
Right.
just, that pattern that I'm here to experience over and over again. And interestingly enough, from just becoming okay with like, I'm not broken. This is the way, the obstacle is the way. This is the way. And just relaxing into that shifted everything where I'm like,
Mm.
then I stopped chasing that healing or that healed. Like, what would I look like when it's done? Because it's you're perfect exactly the way you are, wherever you are, no matter what you're facing, the limitations, the habits. This right now where you are exactly is perfect.
Do you want to talk about this in relation to selling? Because there's a lot of customers that come to me and they say, I don't want to put myself online. I don't like to. It feels cringy. It feels self promoting. Or even the people that want to and see the value in it, they're waiting. Their perfectionism, I think, gets in the way, and they just don't do it. Right? They're procrastinating, or oh, it's just not ready yet, or there's all of those comments that I hear. What would you tell those people that are, at the end of the day, they're business owners? They know they need to do sales and business development and marketing, but they're really holding themselves back.
Such a powerful question. So at the end of the day, you have a choice. You're either going to have the discomfort of learning to put yourself out there, or you're going to have the discomfort of not having any money.
Hmm.
So, which discomfort do you choose? And here's the thing, a lot of people subconsciously are choosing the discomfort of scraping by and not having the money that they want. And they have this guise of perfectionism or fear of success, fear of failure, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they're just not choosing the discomfort that's going to get them to their goal. You're going to have discomfort either way. So you decide which is the discomfort you want to choose. That's the first one. The second one is, it's not going to get easier tomorrow to feel the discomfort. In fact, if you don't do it today, it's going to be harder tomorrow, because today you've reinforced that neural pathway of not doing it and you haven't built that muscle. So it's the easiest time to create a new habit or break free from an old one that no longer serves you is going to be today. The fastest, the easiest way to build that muscle of resilience, of getting shut down, of being rejected is today. Yeah, you'll put yourself out there and you'll get rejected 20 times, 30 times, 100 times, and you'll get one yes. And it's like, what if the life of your dreams is on the other side of 3,000 no's? How quickly would you get those no's?
As quickly as possible, right?
And that's the actuality. I don't know if it's 300 or 3,000 no's, whatever it is. It's different for different people, and everyone has a different threshold. But at the end of the day, when you really understand, you wake up in the morning and you say, like, I choose the discomfort of the activity, so sales, putting myself out there, creating the video, reaching out, having the difficult conversations, selling. I choose that discomfort. And that is the most empowering thing that you can do as an entrepreneur.
In the situation where I know I need to be posting on LinkedIn, I want to post on LinkedIn, but that discomfort thus far has been my barrier, right? And someone's listening to this and hearing Anna talk, and they're like, got it. Anna's right. This isn't going to get any easier. I'd rather choose the discomfort of the no's and eventually getting to the yeses, or right. What is the action to take? What does that person do to just get over that hump and lean in?
Well, it's to do it. To
But
be.
it's held them back thus far. Like, what do they
Hmm.
have somebody else post it for them? Do they just say like, I'm waking up and nothing else is happening until this gets done? Like, is there a tactic you recommend for entrepreneurs or people getting over things like this?
Yeah, so understanding willpower is important. So willpower can be powerful if we understand that it's limited, right? So if I know that I have the most willpower when I wake up in the morning, and then I do the hard thing up front, the hardest thing that I've been putting off. And here's the thing. I actually was talking to a client just yesterday about this. She's like, why is putting my own, I put together case studies and testimonials for clients all the time. Why is putting my own case studies and testimonials so hard? I said to her, because your growth and your breakthrough is on the other side. Push through. And this is the power of having a coach, right? Where you pay someone and they just tell you, get over yourself, big boy panties, big girl panties, I don't care, push through. And then it gets done. So really like that power of accountability is huge, whether it's going to be, maybe you need to tell a friend like, listen, bro, I've really been struggling with this. I don't want to be struggling with this anymore. It's vulnerable for me to share this, but the next time we get together, I want to have X, Y, and Z done. Are you cool with that? Like that's what friends are for. Those are the types of friends that I want to have, right? Where they can come to me and ask me to hold them accountable and vice versa. So that accountability, I think, maybe is the missing piece for people.
One of the habits that I know I've struggled with and I think is really common is the distraction, and especially with our phones, right? It's just such a problem in our society. And it's just so easy. I mean, I could spend all day on my phone if I wanted to, right? I could cycle between Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, email, Slack, text, checking stock prices, whatever. What is the underlying root cause of someone working for 5 or 10 minutes and picking up their phone, or scrolling on Instagram in between work breaks, or like, what is the underlying piece of that?
At the end of the day, it's all a numbing behavior. It's not, it's moving, start moving you towards a goal. Every single thing that you do is either going to move you towards your goal or away from your goal. There's no in between. There's no neutral. So if you rest, for example, and you take a 20-minute nap, that's going to move you towards your goal. And I can hear some people saying, yeah, but if I scroll and I find some inspiration for my next reel or whatever, yeah, how often has that happened? If you really want to do market research, put a timer on your phone for 10 minutes, do 10 minutes of acute market research and get to work. Like, sure, there is a place for that. And our phones, I mean, there's huge teams of engineers and designers who are just designing this thing to be as addictive and distracting as possible. So the most important thing is really to protect your mindset and mind as much as possible. Protect your work. When you have that mission, that vision, that's so important. It's so important for you to put your work out there. You get up in the morning and you can't wait to serve the world with your service, with your message. When you're so lit up by your mission, right, then it's not like the phone can't really distract you because you have that drive. And so it's about tapping into that. Start with why, remembering your why, like why are you doing this at the end of the day? And reminding yourself, especially at the beginning, why it's important, the discomfort that you're choosing in order to get to your goals, and then understanding that everything else is it's self-soothing, it's numbing. You're feeling fear, you're not admitting to yourself that you're feeling fear, and so you're doom scrolling. And so are you going to wake up and change that behavior now or tomorrow? Tomorrow doesn't get easier, tomorrow gets harder. So you choose. And so at the end of the day, it comes down to being very honest with yourself. I know I've said this before, but like becoming your future self's best friend. If you ever are wondering, is this a good activity for me to do? Scroll on my phone or whatever. It's like, well, is your future self going to thank you for this?
I like the question of, does it move you towards the life you want or your goals or away? Because as you said, I love that sentence. It's one or the other. There's no in between. So that may be the simplest question. Does scrolling right now move me towards my goals or further away?
Yeah. And it's hard to be honest with ourselves. And that's why I super believe in the power of masterminds and community and coaches and mentors and surrounding yourself with people who wouldn't tolerate, sitting on your phone all day. Because, like, what would they talk to you about? They want to talk to other movers and shakers who are doing things in the world.
Yeah, I actually recently joined as a group of men who are all entrepreneurs, and we're meeting once a week, and we're essentially really just supporting each other. It's like everyone gets, small breakout groups, 15 minutes a guy, and then you can kind of ask questions, get feedback, get coaching. But the other thing we do is we're setting, like, what are you going to accomplish in the next week? And we're sharing it with each other. And so, I wrote down a list of 5 things. They're pretty ambitious for a week. And I'm looking at this list every day. I'm like, if I don't get on it every day, this list isn't happening. But having that accountability, like, is someone going to come crashing down my home if I don't do it? No, but I want to show up for myself and then this group, right? And so there is just that built-in accountability surrounding myself with people, as you said, movers and shakers doing cool things in the world that I want to be part of and I want to contribute to. So it's a huge part of it.
Yeah. I think that been like such a huge turn to like isolation, and I have to figure it out myself, and like the solo success thing that like no one is a solo success story. And the faster you realize that you need other people and surround yourself with other people who, want to hold each other accountable, that's the fastest path to success.
Yeah. 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 I couldn't agree more. What's the biggest lesson you've learned through your own personal journey of breaking habits?
And it comes in the form of 5 words. The biggest lesson is do the hard thing now.
Mm.
Whether it's a difficult conversation, whether it's a sales call I've been putting off, like whatever that hard thing is, the more I lean into do the hard thing now, the easier everything gets. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm human too. So I find there's certain things in my life that I also struggle to do the hard thing now, or, it takes time to figure it out. So it's one thing to have that theory, like do the hard thing now. But really, when you lean into doing the hard thing now, life becomes easier and easier. Do I go to gym today or tomorrow? Do the hard thing now. Do I stop eating sugar today or tomorrow? Do the hard thing now. The more you do the hard thing now, life gets better and better.
And you shared at the beginning some examples, but do you have an example of your own personal journey of a habit where you did the hard thing now and overcame something that you were struggling with?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll give you my story with alcohol. I struggled to break free from that habit for 7 years. So I'd been drinking for about 2 decades, but only the last 7 years where I was like aware that it wasn't serving me. I was not productive. I wasn't reaching my goals because the alcohol was hijacking my dopamine. So basically, like all the dopamine that I was supposed to use on projects and goals and, accomplishing things were at the bottom of a glass of wine. So why, humans are very efficient. Why would we do all those things and go hunting for deals or whatever if I could just get that dopamine fix in a bottle of wine? So I had hired a sobriety coach. I tried all the different things. I read all the books and listened to the podcasts and everything. And the one message that kept coming back to me is like, Anna, you have to figure this out. That grip that alcohol had on me was so intense. But the one idea, it's like, Anna, you have to figure it out. You're either going to have to figure it out now, or in a year or 5 years or 10 years, your health is going to be worse off. You're going to be worse off financially, friends wise, everything. And so even though that message kept coming back every time I had to do like another day one, another day one, another day one, it's like, darn it, like, okay, but do the hard thing now, do the hard thing now. And eventually it stuck. and I've been alcohol free for almost a year and a half now. But that, like, knowing that if all cycles come to an end, every cycle, every compulsion, every habit needs to end, because we're human and we're cyclical. And so if this cycle and this limitation has to end now, might as well make it end now. I was speaking to a friend of mine and she's struggling to stop vaping. And I was trying to explain this exact same concept to her. I said, babe, you're going to have to stop vaping today or next week or next year. That's guaranteed. You have to stop. She's like, yeah, I know. Today is the easiest that I will get. Promise you that. And yeah, she's on her own journey. I've had another friend that I had this conversation with that quit vaping immediately. So some people are ready to hear that message. Some people are not. It is that like self-soothing, and then, uncovering. It's like, okay, well, who's that inner child that needed a break or needed like a little reprieve, and really like tapping into soothing that version of ourselves in a healthier way.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. We get to wrap up in a minute here, but would love for you to take an opportunity to share who you work with, how people can find you, the kind of work you do, a little bit of a self-promotion moment for you.
Yeah, I work with entrepreneurs who are ready to step up to the next level of breaking free from limiting habits, putting new habits into their lives, and upgrading their relationships. So their business relationships, whether it's with a business partner, their personal relationships with their romantic partner, with their kids, with their parents. So entrepreneurs, habits, and relationships. At Anna Shilina is my Instagram. That's the easiest way to find me. I welcome DMs about habits and relationships. And then my book can be found at habitfreedom.com.
Okay, amazing. We'll get all those linked in the show notes as well so people can easily find you. Anna, thank you so much for being with us today, sharing all your wisdom, your own personal story. It was really amazing to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I had such a great time. Thank you.